Oh. Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Samasta Jana Kalyane Niratam Karunamayam Namami Chinmayam Devam Satgurum Brahma Vidvaram Satgurum Brahma Vidvaram. Om Parthaya Pratibodhitam Bhagavata Narayanena Swayam Vyasena Gratitam Purana Muninam Madhye Mahabharatam Advaitamrita Varshinim Bhagavatim Ashtadashadhyayanim Amba Tvam Anusandadhami Bhagavad Gite Bhavadveshini Yam Brahma Varunendra Rudra Marutaha Stunvanti Divyaistavai Vedai Sangha Padakramo Panishadaihi Gayanti Yam Samagaha Dhyana Vasthita Tadgatena Manasa Pashyanti Yam Yoginaha Yasyantam na vidutsura surganaha Devaya tasmai namaha Devaya tasmai namaha. Om Shri Ganeshaya namaha. Om Shri Saraswatyai namaha. Om Shri Gurubhyo namaha. And Arjuna asks a question, who is a higher devotee? One who worships you with form as Bhagwan Shri Krishna or Shri Rama or Lord Shiva or Jesus, or one who worship you as the formless, all-pervading entity, which is everywhere. Because God is not only limited to that form, but he is all-pervading, everywhere, formless. And Bhagwan Sri Krishna says that the more important is where you put your mind. And the teaching goes that you start with worshiping the form. If you think you are this particular form, this particular shape, then you worship God as in a particular form. But then do not restrict God to that form. See God everywhere in everything, all beings, all animals, plants, even in things, even in inanimate objects, whether it's your pen or your computer or your cell phone, everything is a manifestation of that divinity. And more important is how you keep your mind with love and devotion, and with the intellect you get the right knowledge. That's why Bhagavan says, Mayyeva mana adatsva, Mai buddhim niveshaya, nivasishyasi mayyeva, ata urdhvam na samshaya. If you put your mind on me with love and also with intellect, know who I am as the totality, as the entire universe, everything is me, then you will live in me because I am living in this universe. And if everything is God, then how can I be separate from God? And then Bhagavan gave us 4 steps that if you are not able to put your mind in me, then by practice, again and again, remind yourself. And if that you are not able to do, and if you are very busy at work or doing things all day, then he says, do work for me. That, okay, I'm whatever, whether I'm a physician, or I'm a pharmacist, or I'm a computer programmer, or an engineer, or a housewife. Whatever work I am doing it for Bhagwan. And whoever comes in front of me is the Lord himself. With that attitude, we can do the work. And the fourth one, he says, even if you cannot remember me at work, at least whatever result you get, dedicate that to God. That means if I get paid for my job, be thankful to Bhagwan that I have this opportunity to serve. And then a part of that one should give in service. And we had talked about that last time also, that if you like playing golf, then maybe organize a golf tournament and then donate the proceeds to a good cause. So like that. And then some people say, well, why doesn't Hinduism talk about ethical principles? You know, like in Christianity, they have the 10 commandments. So we see that in the Bhagavad Gita, throughout they are scattered, throughout they are present. And here also in the 12th chapter, the ethical principles are explained very well. We covered them last time. Advaishta, Sarva Bhutanam, Maitra Karuna Evacha, Nirmamo, Nirahankaraha, Samadukha, Sukhakshami. So this person does not hate anybody, who is my devotee, loves all, is compassionate, forgiving, and has no sense of I and my, no ego, and remains the same in joy and sorrow. So they say, how are we to develop these qualities? They seem so difficult. You know, I should not hate anybody. I should be loving, forgiving. Even people who have done bad to me, I should be. So Bhagwan says, you can do that, first of all, with knowledge, but more important is be in the company of bhaktas, be in the company of my devotees. So if you have an opportunity to listen to some satsang from some Mahatma or Swamiji or be in their presence, it's like when an iron piece comes close to a magnet, it gets magnetized. Maybe a weaker magnet than the original, but it has magnetic qualities. So similarly, you and I can develop these qualities by being in presence of devotees or in satsangs like these, where everybody, his goal is to reach God. Or the other option is when you're on the computer, read lives of saints, lives, how these saints lived, how many problems they had, and a little bit about their teachings. So through presence of bhaktas, you can become a bhakta, become a devotee. And Bhagwan does not say how many times does he go to the temple, what clothes he wears, does he have a tilak on his forehead. Not that those are not important. It is good, you know, to go to the temple to do prayer. But what we think that only a person who goes to the temple and prays or wears a particular mark or wears particular clothes is a bhakta, and a person who is working in the world cannot be. So that's what Bhagwan is telling us, that in all activities, yes, going to those places, temple and all is very nice, but do not limit your bhakti to just to that puja room, that when I'm in my prayer room, I am a devotee, when I am working, I am not. So that distinguishing mark should not be there. One should be a devotee at all times, in all situations. Whatever I am doing, I am grateful to God. I am in the presence of God. So we had done 13 shlokas last time. So we'll start with shloka number 14, chapter 12, shloka number 14. Santushta satatam yogi.
Santushta satatam yogi.
Yatatma dridha nischayah.
Yatatma dridha nischayah.
Mayyarpita mano buddhihi.
Mayyarpita mano buddhihi.
Yo madbhaktas same priyah.
Yo madbhakta same priyah.
Okay. Santushta satatam yogi. Yatatma dridha nischayah. Mayyarpita mano buddhihi. Yo madbhakta same priyaha. So Bhagavan Shri Krishna is telling that, giving us more qualities of this man of devotion, this man of bhakti. Man, of course, means woman also. Don't think only men. In fact, women are more, in my opinion, more have bhakti in them, more devotion, because they have more surrender. They have less of ego. So Bhagwan is, last week we had done some qualities. Now we are doing a few more qualities. And it is very interesting. A lot of these are, we don't associate that with bhakti. Santushta. Santushta means ever content. Satatam. Santushta, ever content. This bhakti yogi, this yogi who practice bhakti. And also satatam can be applied with all of them. Is satatam santushta, satatam yatatma. Yatatma means always striving with what? With firm determination, always working, doing my work, coming close to me with firm determination, dridha nishchaya, with complete determination. Means a yogi or a true bhakta is not easily deviated, no matter the society may criticize. We can, look at Mirabai's life, Tukaram's life, Sant Gyaneshwar's life, how many problems they had, but they were not able to deviate these devotees from their path. So that's what they say, Santushta Satatam Yogi Yatatma Dridha Nishchayaha Mai Arpit Mano Buddhihi. So Mai Arpit becomes Mai, in me, Arpit. Arpit means surrendered, giving to me, in me, mana and buddhi, both. Mind, that means emotions, and buddhi, intellect, understanding. Yaha, this mad bhakta, my devotee, sa me priyaha. So such a devotee is dear to me. Mad bhakta, sa me, that to me is priyaha. So contentment, now we always think contentment is something like a negative quality, theek hai, jo mil gaya, theek hai, I don't need to get better, I don't need to progress. So we think that if I cannot get something, then I accept it and say, grapes are sour. But contentment here means that, first of all, whatever I have got at the end, I put my best effort. We are not saying content means you don't work. You work, put your best effort, but at the end of the day, whatever Bhagwan has given me, I am content, I am grateful. Thank you, Bhagwan, for whatever I have, because everything we have is given by the Lord himself. You and I did not create this world. We did not create this intelligence that we have, this ability to work. Everything has been given to us by God, this beautiful universe. So having an attitude of contentment, that I am grateful for what I have. How can this contentment arise? Because we are so insecure. I wish I want more. Why can't I get this, that, and all? So it says it comes from an inner attitude of peace and completeness, that whatever I have, I am good with. And then next day you go out and again work in the world. But whatever I have, so when I have this inner fullness, inner completeness, because most people work out of incompleteness, that by getting this, I will become complete. When I know I am complete, then my activity comes out of inner joy. And then such a person is ever happy, because he says, I am working for God. God has given me that, and every result he is giving to God. But striving, but do not stop working. Even, people say, well, I'm retired, I can do nothing. No, even if you are retired, make your life a life of service. Now that's why they call them the golden years, where I don't have to worry about my children and whatever they are doing, they are settled. So spend more time in service, find an opportunity to serve where I can help society, where I can give back. So in whatever way, if you can teach, if you can work, if you can serve, whatever I can do financially, So the point is that ever striving, never sit down and say, oh, my life is over, I have nothing to do. Because the moment you do that, then your life goes down. Then we deteriorate. That's what they say after retirement. People deteriorate because they stop challenging themselves. So I should have some physical challenge, and intellectual challenge, learning new things, learning a new language, reading good literature, stimulating, not just, on the iPhone, but reading some good books, as I said, lives of saints, teachings of saints. So reading good material is called, and it says with firm determination. Because what happens is that people give up. 6 months I have been meditating, nothing has happened. Oh, once in a week I study the Bhagavad Gita, and I don't see any change in myself. So change happens gradually, because this ignorance that we have about our true nature, that I am that reality, that ignorance is long standing of many lifetimes and is not going to go away just like that. So constant, slow effort is required. I was listening to one commentary and they gave a very beautiful example. Say you have a huge stone and you want to break it, huge rock, very strong, and all you have is a small hammer. So what you do, you say, but you have to break this. So you keep on hammering, cut, tuck, 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 tuck. You keep on doing, with firm determination that I'm not going to stop till this rock breaks. And there will come a point, maybe after several days of hitting, where finally the rock becomes weak, you find a spot and boom, the rock crashes. So similarly, this rock of ignorance that we have in our brain, this ignorance is so long-standing and so firm that it needs constant activity. So constant reading, constant studying of the scriptures, constantly doing some puja, some bhakti every day, some meditation every day, and doing some karma yoga. Even no matter how busy I am, take out some time to serve the world. So that's what he says, that one who can do that, Dridha Nishchaya. And how can he do that? Mai arpit manobuddhi. We had talked last week also how my mind and intellect should be devoted to God. And I just recently heard a very beautiful story. So there was this king who was going on his chariot, and he had soldiers around him, and then he saw this fakir. Fakir is a very peculiar term in Hindi. Fakir does not actually mean beggar, though it's translated as, but fakir means this person who has his own mind set on something different, who thinks different from you and me. And he's carefree, and he was sitting and playing with some mud. He had very toned clothes, long beard, long hair, didn't look very clean, but he was sitting in his joy and playing with mud. So king said, this guy looks like a nice person. Why is he has no clothes and he has, not very good hair and all. Maybe king felt sorry for him. So king said, why don't you come to my palace and you can stay there? I'll take care of you. So the fakir looks at him and says, are you the king? He says, yeah, I'm the Maharaja of this kingdom. He was very proud. So fakir said, okay, I'll come with you, but I have 4 conditions. So king said, he should have been overjoyed, and I'm taking him to my palace. He's putting 4 conditions. He said, yeah, okay, what are the conditions? He said, my first condition is, I will eat, you will not eat. So what? I will eat, you will not eat. Okay. Second is, I will sleep, but you will not sleep. King said, Arey yaar, what is this? Third is, I will wear nice clothes, you won't wear it. Jo bhi, theek hai, anything you have, but you will not wear nice clothes. I will wear nice clothes. And fourth is, you will be with me 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You will never leave my side. So king said, what kind of condition is this? You are just a fakir. You eat and I don't eat. You sleep and I don't sleep. You wear nice clothes, but I don't. and I have to spend 24 hours with you, then who is going to take care of my kingdom? So Fakir says, look, Badshah, you cannot fulfill these 4 conditions, but I have a greater Badshah than you who does all the 4 things. He never sleeps, but make sure I get enough sleep. He never eats, but make sure food is sent to me. He does not wear any clothes because he's all-pervading, formless, but he makes sure I get clothes to wear. And he is with me 24 hours a day, 365. He says, when I have a Badshah like that, who is much greater than you, why would I leave and come to your palace? So that made the king understand and reduced his arrogance, that somehow he thought that I am a great king of this, kingdom, and there's nobody like me. So that's the message this Fakir taught him in that little story, that we think that, oh, I am so great, I am so good, I know so much, I do. But compared to that the Lord, we are very, very small. And so that humility should be there, that God has given me this opportunity to work, this opportunity to serve, and always one should remember God. And then Bhagavan says, Yo mad bhakta same priyaha. We also discussed that last time. So when Bhagavan says that this devotee is dear to me, actually, we are all dear to Bhagavan, but in his heart, there is a special place for those who constantly remember God and work for God. And even if you don't think of God as a person, think of it as the totality, okay, as the universe. When you think about karmas, those who are following these things, doing good for others, doing service, what will happen? Won't that universe be beneficial to him? It is obvious that if you serve the world will serve you back. Whatever you give out in this world, you get back. Whatever goes around comes around. So that what Bhagavan means, that one who worships me like that, serves me like that, then I, not only as Bhagavan Shri Krishna, but as the total universe, blesses such a person, because this person is doing good karmas, is serving, and has no ego, and is constantly remembering God. The third thing is, you don't think God is the universe, don't think God is a form, but God is life or consciousness within, right? Is the life within me, that is Bhagavan. So then also, when your mind is still and turned towards God, then God becomes dear to you and you become dear to God, because then the inner consciousness is blessing. A person who lives a life like that, he's not going to have sorrow, he's not going to have misery, he's not going to be. So the universe or the inner consciousness or Bhagavan will bless. So that's why Bhagavan says, such a devotee is dear to me and I am dear to him. In the previous chapter, he had said that I am dear to him and he is dear to me. So these qualities, the idea is that by studying these qualities, I should, it's like a mark. Okay, where do I stand? Do I have contentment? Do I have, a firm determination? Is my mind all the time? And if I am not, then this becomes a yard mark that if I don't fit in it, let me try to develop. Or if I have 25%, make it 50%, 75%. So more and more, we should develop these qualities within us. So that is the essence of this particular shloka. Santushta satatam yogi yatatma dridha nischaya. Then we'll go to the next one, number 15, where again Bhagavan Shri Krishna gives us more qualities of such a devotee. Number 15. Yasmano dvijate lokaha.
Yasmano dvijate lokaha.
Lokano dvijate chayaha.
Lokano dvijate chayaha.
Harsha marsha bhayo dvegaihi.
हर्षामर्षभयोद्वेगैः
Mukto yassa me priyaha.
मुक्तो यः स च मे प्रियः
Okay, together. Yasmano dvijate lokaha. Lokano dvijate chayaha. Harshamarshbhayodvegaihi. Mukto yassa cha me priyaha. So there are a few more qualities of a bhakta. Who is dear to me? Bhagavan says, this is such an individual who practices these values, is not only dear to me, but if we find that these saints are loved by everybody, even though there may be times that they may have faced problems, but at the end, we find that these great teachers and Mahatmas are loved by all. So they are not only dear to Bhagavan, but they are dear to all of us. How many of us will say that, Mirabai or Tukaram or Narsi Mehta or Sant Gyaneshwar or Buddha or Jesus, we all revere them, we worship them because they were great devotees of Bhagavan. So here we have few more qualities. Yasmat. Yasmat na udvijate, but when in the Sandhi it becomes Yasman no dvijate. Yasmat is the fifth case. So Yasmat naha udvijate lokaha. So Yasmat means from whom, na udvijate, do not get agitated, lokaha. So that from whom people do not get agitated means he does not agitate others. He does not disturb others, does not agitate others, does not create problems for others. Lokat na udvijate. From people, na udvijate. He does not get agitated. Cha yaha. Cha means and, yaha means that person. So a person who himself or herself does not agitate or disturb others, at the same time, other people do not disturb him or her. So that is one quality, two qualities, that he does not bother others, others do not bother him. Then there are few others, harsha, amarsha, bhaya, udvegaha. Harsha means joy, excessive joy. Amarsha means jealousy. Bhaya means fear. Udvega means anxiety. Muktaha. Muktaha means he is free from all four. Ya sa cha me priyaha. So yaha means such an individual. Sa cha means and. Me priyaha is dear to me. So what is that? One who does not get disturbed by the world, who himself does not disturb the world and is free from joy, jealousy, fear, and anger. So that's too difficult. That's too hard. So, okay, let's see what each one means. So we say, you know what? I may not disturb others, but how can I stop others from disturbing me? I cannot. The world will create problem. Or I may not create problems, but others may not like what I'm doing. And we find, as we have said, all these great saints had so many problems in their life, and they were not appreciated in their lifetime. Even great artists like Vincent van Gogh, nobody appreciated it. They thought he was some crazy fellow. He was a psychiatric schizophrenic. And later on, his paintings are now selling for millions of dollars, and they are in all the art galleries. So we find that these great people sometimes are not appreciated in their lifetime. Or like we said, I may not agitate, but people may not like me, may not get disturbed, may get disturbed from me. Okay, I do not let people disturb me, but so what they say is that consciously we should not try to hurt others, irritate others, bother others, otherwise, especially kids, brothers, the older brother will just touch the kid's hair and then run away, and then the younger one is crying and chasing. So kids do that, but adults do that too. They do something that they know will purposely irritate another person and then watch the fun. So they say that I myself should not purposely irritate. And if somebody finds my behavior not okay, well, I tried my best. And other people, how will they not bother? He says, if you have this inner feeling that God is with me at all times, and I am inner peace and contentment when we have, then he says, how can you disturb that? That is called the highest peace. When you feel God's presence with me at all times, and I am nothing but that divinity expressing in this universe, then how can I be disturbed by anything or anybody else? When I have, is Gurudev in his commentary says, like a lighthouse. See, if there is a piece of wood, it gets shaken up and down by the ocean. And sometimes up, if the current is up, if the current is down, sometimes. And that's what happens to most of us, that we go up and down, one day happy, one day unhappy. But a person but a lighthouse that is firmly anchored in the base, then no matter how many storms come, how many oceans come, how many hurricanes come, the lighthouse does not go up and down, is firmly anchored. Not only that, but it becomes a guide. In the olden days, lighthouse used to be the light that used to guide the ships into the port. Now, of course, they have radar and all that. But in those days, they used to go visually. So when they see a lighthouse, even if there is a storm, they know that past the lighthouse, if we go, we will be safe in the port. So same way, these Mahatmas remain firmly anchored in their knowledge and become a lighthouse for you and me. So we can be guided. That's why reading commentaries by Swami Chinmayananda of the Bhagavad Gita and other acharyas helps us to anchor our knowledge firmly. So being in contact with them and learning from them, we also can. So that's what they say, be firmly anchored in this knowledge. Bhagavan Sri Krishna in another place, he said, Sarva Bhutastham Atmanam Sarva Bhutani Chatmani Ikshate Yoga Yukt Atma Sarvatra Samadarshinaha. Sarva Bhutastham Atmanam, when he sees God in everybody, and Sarva Bhutani Cha Atmani, and in this consciousness everybody is. So I am in God and God is in me. So they are both correct. But actually we are in God because God is everywhere, but also he's there as life and consciousness reflecting in our mind and intellect. Ikshate, yoga yuktatma. So one whose mind is ever centered on the Lord, he sees. What he sees means he understands. Everything is God. Sarvatra, everywhere, even in a person who is hateful to me, he sees God. Samabuddhaya, then such a person becomes equanimous because he knows that joys and sorrows are meant to come. That is the nature of the world based on my karmas, based on my society. Sometimes it's individual karma, sometimes it is the karma of that community or that society. Like if there's a hurricane and destroys one city or an earthquake, then it is the karmas of the totality of that particular place. So understanding that it is that which is happening, but everything is God, God is doing everything. Then he says, then such a person, there is no need for him to be disturbed by anything or anybody because he is firmly anchored in the inner peace. That's what we had last week talked about, that the peace is so indefinable. With the peace of contact with Bhagwan is so profound that nothing can disturb that peace. So that's what is said in this shloka. Lokat na udvijate chayaha. Then he says harsha, amarsha, bhaya, udvegaha. So 4 things that Bhagavan Sri Krishna says one should be free from. Muktaha yasacha me priya. So harsha means joy. He says, oh, you mean I should not have any joy? I should be free from joy? No, what Bhagavan is telling us when he mentions the word harsha, what he means is that we start overflowing. You know, we are up in the sky. They said, I'm in 7th heaven. Everything is going well. And, you know, all that we start singing, Aaj main sabse upar, you know, there's that famous song, I am above the sky, main ud rahi hu, all that. So what happened is we get so overjoyed when things are going well, but then What is the other side of the coin? Joy is accompanied by sorrow. It is meant to be. There are two sides of the, you cannot say, I only want the heads, I don't want tails. You cannot have. A coin will have heads, will have tails. So whatever is in this life giving you joy, sooner or later will give you sorrow. So the point is not that one should not seek joy, but when joy comes, be thankful. Do not get overjoyed and do not become arrogant. Oh, I am so great, I have so much. Because that's what they say, one who rises higher has further to fall. Or they say pride goeth before a fall. So when you become arrogant or proud, fall is bound to happen. So don't get overjoyed. If something is going well, thank you, God, for that. And be ready that tomorrow, if sorrow comes or if this joy is not there, I am still fine. Samabuddhaya, that Bhagavan Sri Krishna again and again, he says, be balanced. Then amarsha is jealousy. Now, where do we get jealous? When we have this idea that I am not as good as the other person. Somebody may be better in something else, like somebody may have a better memory, or somebody may be good in chanting, or somebody may be good in organizing, or somebody may be good in cooking, or somebody, accounting. So there are all different fields, computers, engineering. So there are so many different branches and not everybody can be good in everything. So do not compare myself with others, that why can't he or she does this? Why can't I do it? I may be better in something else. Some people are very good in organizing or in serving or in cooking food for others. So there are so many qualities that we may have, but not everybody has to be good in everything. So what the idea is that Bhagwan, whatever you have given me, I do my best with whatever qualities I have. So I find out what I am good at and do it to the best of my ability. And do not compare myself with others. So when you do not compare and you say, God, thank you for whatever gifts you have given me. Gurudev used to say, what God has given us is his gift to us. What we do with that is our gift to him. So let me give back to the community and let me not be jealous. Again, we don't know. Somebody may be very rich, may be very wealthy, but he may have other problems. Maybe his kid is on drugs, You never know, the life of people. You may think, oh, they have everything. But inside, who is really happy? Like that fakir who had nothing. But he was totally happy. He was playing with mud and he didn't want even the kingdom of the palace. I have the supreme God with me. So that is called amarsha, not being jealous of others, not comparing with others. Bhaya. Bhaya means fear. When do we get fear? When I see somebody as not me. Usually people are not afraid of themselves, right? Nobody says I'm afraid of myself unless somebody has some psychiatric illness. But most of us, we are not afraid of ourselves. We are afraid of somebody else or something else. But if I see sarva bhutasthamaatmanam sarva bhutani chatmani, if I see everybody as me, then there is nobody I will be afraid of because they are all me. That's why these Mahatmas are fearless. That's why Bhagwan Shiva, one of his name is Abhaya Pradam, one who grants fearlessness. So once you know God is with you, then nobody else can. That bhajan, Janaki Nath Sahai Kare, Kaun Bigad Kare Nartero. If the Lord Rama himself is with you, nobody can hurt you. So then such a person becomes fearless. And Udvega means anxiety. Udvega has many meanings, means agitation, means anxiety. So anxiety means, again, some worry about the future. Will I get this? Will I not get this? What will happen? And even last week we had said, surrender all fruits to me. So I have done my best and whatever comes is. And then we say, oh, I don't know, after when I get old, what will happen? Who will take care of me? Will my children? God will take care. Just remember that. And then you have no anxiety for the future. When you surrender to him, then such a person is free from all four. Overwhelming joy he doesn't have jealousy, he doesn't have fear, and no anxiety for the future. Because you see, this is a land of karma. Whatever effort you put, you will get the result. So if I have done good effort, the result is bound to come. So there is no worry. Do whatever you can in the present, and the future will take care of itself. So one who is muktaha, one who is completely free from that, such a person is a true devotee of Bhagavan Shri Krishna, who does not get bothered by the world and himself does not bother others and is free from these four. So that is the shloka number 15. We'll go to shloka number 16. Anapeksha shuchir dakshaha
अनपेक्ष शुचिर्दक्षः
udasino gatavyathaha
उदासीनो गतव्यथः
sarvarambha parityagi
सर्वारम्भ परित्यागी
yo madbhaktas same priyaha.
यो मद्भक्तः स मे प्रियः.
Anapeksha. Peksha means, oh sorry, we'll all chant together. Sorry. Anapeksha shuchir dakshaha udasino gatavyathaha sarvarambha parityagi yo madbhaktas same priyaha. So Bhagavan says, such a devotee who practices these qualities is dear to me. So what are the qualities? Anapeksha. Apeksha means expectation. So one who has no expectation. He said no expectation? No. He has no hope? No. You mean he's hopeless? No, that's not what Bhagavan is saying. But we'll talk about what is the meaning of not having any expectations. Shuchihi. Shuchihi means pure, clean. Dakshaha. Daksha means efficient. I think we have one daksha. Daksha means one who is very efficient in whatever they do. Then expert, very good in doing. Udasina. Udasina means indifferent. So indifferent, he doesn't care. Or udasin also we think is like Devdas. Always sad, always crying. We had the movie Devdas, where this guy was just drinking because his girlfriend left him and he was crying. And that's not udasina, that what Bhagavan mentioned. He had no interest in the world. He was just, his clothes were torn and he's singing sad songs. Ye dunya agar mil bhi jaye to kya? Not like that. But what is udasina? What Bhagavan means, we'll talk about that. Gata vyatha. Vyatha means, again, there is no disturbance, no problems. He has no problems from anything. And sarva arambha parityagi. Sarva arambha means all beginnings. Parityagi. Tyagi means one who gives up. Parityagi means one who completely gives up all beginnings. You mean he doesn't begin anything? No, he doesn't begin anything. We say, oh, that person is hopeless, who sits there and says, I don't need to do anything. Bhagavan will take care. No, that's not what is meant by sarvarambha parityagi. So yaha madbhakta. So this of my devotee, sa, that devotee, me priyaha, to me is dear. Here me is the fourth case. To me is priyaha. To me, this devotee is dear to me. So anapeksha, without expectations, means what happens is that we have expectations from others. I was expecting he will do that, and he never fulfilled what I wanted from him. And we always think, this person, he should understand me. I shouldn't have to tell him. He should understand what I want. Or I wanted so-and-so thing and he didn't do it. That's why in My Fair Lady, the movie, there is a very famous song where Rex Harrison is singing and Julie Andrews is the heroine, and she doesn't do what he was expecting her to do, what he wants her to do. And it's a very famous song. And at the end of it, he says, why can't a woman be more like a man? Why can't a woman be like me? So that means, why can't she be like me? Why can't she do what I am wanting her to do? But everybody is different. A woman thinks differently, man thinks differently. And at the moment, people may have different ideas, of what is to be done, what is not. And then secondly, if you have expectation, express it, not as a demand, but let the person know. And if the person does not fulfill it, again, I am full, I am complete. If somebody does, very good. Nahi karega to bhi theek hai. I am fine because I am with God. And our greatest expectation comes from our spouse, right? Our near and dear ones, family members. I wanted this and I never got it, or my son doesn't call me, he's gone now, he has his family, he doesn't take care of me, she doesn't call me, she doesn't come. So expectations are from spouse, from closest, and that's when all the problems arise. Gata vyatha, all the disturbance arises from spouse. So this reminds me, so there was this man, his mother-in-law came to visit, and the wife had gone somewhere grocery shopping. So he was with the mother-in-law. So he starts complaining. He says, you know what, your daughter, she has 100 problems. Usme ye defect hai, wo defect hai, she has this fault, that fault, 100 faults. He starts listing all of them. Your daughter has all these faults, and that's why I am disturbed. So mother was smart. She says, you are 100% right. My daughter has all these faults. That's why she couldn't find a good husband. So that's why she. So the point is that we are always thinking that somebody will give me something to make me happy. So that's what it says. Such a person has no expectation from others. He says, if he does, it's fine. If he doesn't do, I am still fine. If he does, very good. You appreciate or thankful. If he doesn't do, I go and do it myself. Or if not, I am fine. Why am I making that other person make me happy? That if this person does this, only if my husband did this to me, I would be happy. Only if my wife. No, I am happy regardless of what my husband or my wife or my child or my boss or my neighbor, none of them. So anapeksha. Shuchihi. Shuchi means pure. Pure means clean. So what is cleanliness? We have talked in Dakshinamurti on Tuesday. Like if there is a clear water, when does it become dirty? When in the water you put something that is not water, right? If you put some mud or you put some black color or something, then you say the water is dirty, let's throw it away. So when it is uncontaminated, that is called pure. They say, oh, pure water. That's why they have all these ads, Aquafina, and we have pure water, which is from the stream. So anything that is not contaminated is pure. So how can I be pure? So they say you can be in three ways. One is cleanliness, physical cleanliness, physical purity. I should keep myself clean, and that is, we all know that. We all take a bath and use deodorants and all that. That's good. Then the second is mental, and that's very, very important. Physical cleanliness is good, but mental cleanliness, where I should not have those qualities, jealousy, hatred, and Bhagwan has already mentioned, forgiving, loving, compassionate. So that is mental cleanliness, where even mentally I do not think negative about somebody. I do not have hatred. I do not have jealousy. I do not have pride, arrogance. So mental purity. So physical purity, physical cleanliness, and mental purity, where even with my thoughts, I do not hurt anybody. And third is purity of surroundings. So I should keep my surroundings clear. That means my closet should be well organized, not clothes thrown here and there. My room should be clean. My kitchen, keeping things in place and keeping them, not messy and clean. So cleanliness of the surroundings. So that is called purity, shuchihi. And dakshaha, daksha means very efficient, very organized, doing everything precisely. Not only in big things, efficient. Some people are very good in big projects, but they go to their office, their desk is full of papers. My papers are cluttered everywhere. No, everything in its place. At the big things, they are good, or big organizing, big problems, if they are given, even in day-to-day problems, even small things, nothing is too small for them. Whatever job is given, I'll do it to the best of my ability. So efficient in whatever he does, whether I have a big job or a small job, putting my best effort. Then udasin, as we said, udasin, udas in Hindi and many other languages means always sad. So here, udasin does not mean sad. It means utta asina. Asina means seated. Uta means above. Uta asin in Sanskrit, the ta and a becomes the udasin. So that is the Sandhi rule. So uta asin means always staying above. What does that mean? Does that mean he lives in the top floor of the apartment? No, what it means is that he or she is above these problems. Problems are there. They will always be there, but I am above them. So not letting small things, little things irritate, because that's what bothers us more. Something small, something tiny irritates us. So that is what he says. Remaining above all worldly problems, keeping the mind always in God and still working does not mean that this person doesn't work. In fact, he is very efficient, very competent, but does not get himself bothered by small things. And gata vyataha, again, gata vyataha means there is no anxiety, there is no agitation, there is no sorrow. You say, I know I am Brahman, I am that divinity, but I have this sorrow. The but is not there. For these wise people, there is never any sorrow, never any discomfort, never any. Because if I am with God, then who can give me sorrow? Gata vyataha. So look at this. Nowhere these beautiful qualities, how beautifully Bhagavan is describing a man of wisdom, a person of wisdom, who is close to God. And sarva arambha parityagi. Parityagi, tyagi means to give up. Pari means completely giving up all beginnings. So you say, mean he never begins anything? Yes, because the moment I say I began this, that the sense of ego comes, I am the one who did this. And the idea is that whatever is even though I have done something, there is a whole pattern going on. Even if tomorrow I write a software program, you say, I am the programmer, I wrote it. No, but where did you get this knowledge of programming, and who set up the internet, and where did your teacher taught you, and somebody made the internet, whatever, 50, 40 years ago, 30 years ago, they made the internet, and then this programming has been going on. So it's not that you started. If you made a dish, you cooked very well. People have been cooking for thousands of years, and this knowledge you got from your mother and grandmother. And so everything is, if whatever you do, even if you start a new business or a new industry, the knowledge came from others and the abilities came from others. You copied the models of so many people. So to think that I started something is arrogant. So what it means is that whenever any project is going on, he is always grateful to his teachers and to the people who, all this physics and chemistry, all these great scientists, Newton and Einstein. And before that, even we hear about in our Vedas, how these rishis had so much knowledge, not only of spirituality, but physics, chemistry, biology, medicine. They could do surgery. So this knowledge is thousands of years old. So to think that I did something is pure arrogance. So these qualities one who has, yaha mad bhakta same priya, such a devotee is dear to me. When I was reading these qualities, it reminded me of Puja Gurudev, Swami Chinmayananda, because if you look at him, every one of these qualities, he 100% personified, like anapeksha. He had no expectation. He said, do what you want, understand what it is to be done. And if others don't do it yourself. That was his motto. Very clean, his desk, his room, his own body, always pure in his thoughts. And daksha, and even the smallest job he will do perfectly. This huge mission, we all owe our existence of this mission to this great Mahatma. But even when he was mailing letters, in those days there was no email, he used to personally reply to all his devotees. And if somebody was putting stamps, he would say, no, the stamp has to be exactly in the corner, not crooked. The handwriting has to be here. So, everything he wanted the envelope to be sent, means whatever should go from my office or from me should be. So he was very precise, not only in big details of how the LA mission is to be set up. I remember how he was involved in organizing all these activities, and then making sure they continued by teaching others, Swami Tejomayanandaji, Ishwaranandaji, Swarupanandaji, and so on. So even in the big jobs, but even in the tiny jobs, he was very efficient, very precise, very perfect, and above everything, because he lived in a different world from you and me. These enlightened masters, they live in a world, but at the same time, they are compassionate towards us. That's why he says, na, adveshta sarva bhutanam maitra karuna evacha. So Gurudev was so compassionate, whoever spent time with him, even though he was very efficient and made sure things worked on time, but inside he was compassionate. And that's why he brought this knowledge from the Himalayas. He could have stayed there and meditated because he had already reached enlightenment. His guru even told him. But he said, no, the people of India and the people of the world need this knowledge. And so he came down from the Himalayas, just as the Ganga comes down and blesses whole of mankind. So he came down to bless us out of compassion. And again, he never had any arrogance that I did this, or that I started the mission. He always gave thanks to Sadashiva Samarambham. It is from God himself, Shankaracharya Madhyamam. And it is, our mission is based on Bhagavan Shankaracharya ji's teachings, Swami Shankaracharya ji's teaching. And then he always gave credit to his guru, Tapovan Maharaj and Shivanandji, that it is because of them whatever I am. So the point is that a true devotee of the Lord does not have expectations from others, does what is to be done. If a big job comes to him, it is fine. Another translation of Ut Asin is like some of these Mahatmas, they actually don't work. It's not that every Mahatma will go out and serve. Like Raman Maharishi, he just stayed in the temple. He didn't go anywhere. He hardly wrote a couple of books, little bit of teaching. Tapovan Maharaj stayed there in Uttar Kashi. He said, if any devotee comes to me to learn, they will learn. And then there are others who don't even teach, just stay in meditation in the Himalayas or in the monasteries. You say, well, by that meditation, what are they doing? They are actually blessing the universe, because the energy, the vibration spread by such a Mahatma blesses not only this world, but all other universes. So that is the glory of these great Mahatmas. And they may or may not teach, they may or may not serve, they may or may not establish missions, they may or may not give talks, but by their presence, the world is blessed. That's why we see in our stories of rishis in the Puranas that some of these rishis, when they sat in meditation, a lion and a deer would be sitting next to each other and they would be both at peace, because they are able to spread peace. In their presence, people get peaceful and no doubts, no different state. So Ut Asin has a lot of meanings. So what it means is that these Mahatmas are always blessing the world by their presence. And such a devotee is Yo Mad Bhakta Same Priya. So Bhagavan says, I have a special place in my heart for them. And if not only me, but the entire universe is blessing such a person. And even inside the God's presence, he feels connected. And so his mind is always at peace because I am connected with God. So because of all those reasons, Bhagavan says, such a devotee is dear to me and I am dear to him. It is both. I love him and he loves me. And it is natural. If I love somebody, in Bhagavan's case, he says, if you love me, I'll love you 10 times as much. One place in Bani, it says, he says, Tum ek baar, I have mentioned that before, Tum ek baar pukaro mujhko, main ji karun 10 baar. He said, you just call me one time and 10 times I will say, yes, sir, yes, sir, yes, sir. Yes, ma'am, yes, ma'am, yes, ma'am. What can I do for you? So God is saying, I'm just waiting for you to call me and I am always ready to do that. So, but you're not calling God so that he may do things for you. You're calling out of love. So that is the essence of these beautiful shlokas. So the idea is that I should practice this contentment, firm determination, mind in God. Don't let the world bother you. Don't bother others. Be free from anxiety, fear, excess joy, jealousy, and be very pure in our mind and in our thinking, and always be grateful to God and to the gurus and all the masters who before have taught us this knowledge. So we'll end here. We have time if somebody would like to ask questions or add anything. Satish bhai, anything you would like to add?
No, I think this is a very, very profound teachings. This 12th chapter is fully loaded with profound slokas.
Right.
One sloka that I came across, it was from Srimad Bhagavad, and it's when it talks about santosh, the satisfaction and all that. So Naraji was asked by the students or disciples as to what is the best way to please Lord Janardana. So he gives this sloka. He says, Dayaya sarva bhuteshu santushtya yena kenva sarvendriyo pashantya cha tusya tyashu janardana. So basically to have passion for all the beings, right? Dayaya sarva bhuteshu.
Right.
Santushtya yena kenva. So meaning that you should be satisfied under any condition.
Whatever you get, right.
Under any condition.
Right.
Correct, exactly. What you were discussing. And sarvendriyo pashantyacha, meaning controlling of, so dhamma and shama, right?
Right. And shanti, we all become shant. Yes. Very good.
Correct. These will help you please Janardana.
Right. Very nice. Thank you.
Yeah, it was very, very well put by him.
Thank you. Beautiful
Okay.
shloka.